This may seem like a conspiracy, but I'm starting to think that everything these days is designed to distract people. Social media, movies, TV shows, gaming, porn, sport, theatre, plays, etc. They are all distractions. We live in a time where humans are the most distracted they have ever been, not least because you have the biggest distraction of them all carried around in your pocket with you at all times. And this means that more than ever, people are prescribing themselves to a sedentary life, happy to mask their failures and inadequacies with the vapid world of social media and content, forming parasocial relationships with more successful people who embody what they had once hoped to achieve themselves. But reading this, it made me think of a couple questions I'm going to go through in this video, and maybe you can get some advice from this. So in my opinion, there's two levels to this statement that everything in the modern world is just designed to be a distraction. So you have the private level, which is the companies themselves that produce the media that people consume, the distractions. So you have social media companies, big tech like Meta and TikTok, and you have other companies that produce films and sports and all of the media that we consume. They are financially incentivized to take up as much of your time and attention as possible, because the longer that they can keep you scrolling and your eyes fixated on the screen, the more watch time that they can get, the more pay-per-views they can get with the sports events, the more people tuning into the broadcast, the more money they will make. So they are incentivized to get you to spend as much time doing this as possible. Therefore, they want you to be distracted. They want you to stay in their product, essentially, in that world, virtual world. And that isn't good. It's not good for the general population. They don't have your best interests at heart. They just want your attention and your time. And really, what is your life if not just attention and time? But then there's the second side of it, which is actually the more nefarious and scary side, which is that government or governments are incentivized to keep the general populace distracted. Almost like society and the technological nexus of the world has been designed to artificially keep people just content, so that there's no kind of big uprising or mass amounts of people who want to leave their work and go off on their own spiritual adventure and, become successful entrepreneurs. They need to keep a certain amount of the population, a certain percentage of people working like rats, actually, just to keep society moving along. You need to have that rat race, that corporate ladder. You need people to be willing to do those shittier jobs. But to most people in the modern liberal world, where everyone needs to be happy and content, that's not good enough. Just working this terrible job with the prices that we have and all the things going on in the world, life is quite difficult at the moment for a lot of people. And so they need to have some kind of crutch that people can lean on, something to distract them, some kind of form of escapism that can take people out of their real life and into a better life, the virtual life. And it can be found at the tap of a few buttons. You can get it from your phone, you can get it from your laptop, you can go home and watch the latest Squid Game season, the latest show on Netflix, you can watch the latest movies in the cinema, and it all serves as a distraction from real life, which is pretty tough at the moment in the modern world, unfortunately. While I don't know the why, yes, this has all been done on purpose. There are numerous books that go into this subject. It is designed. Steve Jobs didn't let his kids have iPads. I can't remember which one, but one of the Facebook executives, when asked about Facebook in his house, answered that his kids are not allowed to use this shit. They knew how bad it was and they knew what they were doing. They did it on purpose, using research on how to get people addicted. So that goes back to the corporate level, okay? The actual executives who ran the companies, like Steve Jobs, who was obviously the founder of Apple and the iPhone and stuff, and someone at Facebook, they didn't let their kids use this technology, okay? They knew how addictive it was. They knew how bad it was, how much of a distraction it would be, and how much of a detrimental effect it could have on someone, taking them away from their priorities in life, like their shortcomings. And instead of allowing people to face the consequences of their shortcomings in life and try to rectify them by becoming better people, they knew that just distracting people from that reality and keeping people in a sedentary life would be a negative thing. And they wouldn't impose that on their own kids. So why are you letting it be imposed on you right now? The why is very simple: profit. The more addicted people there are, the more money they make. And I just want to go into the specific distractions a second on what I believe to be an important distinction here between things like social media and movies and TV shows, gaming, porn, sports, theatre, plays. These are all the distractions that are listed in this post. But there's a distinction to be made. So this person is lamenting about how life all feels like a distraction. Okay, everything's a distraction. But there's a difference between the distraction of social media and the distraction of something like a film. You see, in my opinion, social media is this very easily accessible place that you can go. You carry it around with you in your pocket. You can go there at all times. You can access it 24/7, and it's homogenous. What I mean by that is the things that you see on social media are not culturally one thing. They're not telling one story. They're not taking you to a new world. They're not inspiring. They're not building on your imagination. They're not building on your creativity. It doesn't really give anything to you, right? Because everything you see on Instagram Reels or on TikTok, it's all different. It's homogenous. You can watch multiple different things that are very wide and broad in scope, depending on what the algorithm is serving you. And what that means is that there's no one narrative or one story or one lesson. Whereas things like films, they're longer form, and films have played a really pivotal role in my life personally because I love watching films, okay? And I think that films have served as a huge cultural foundation for a lot of the stuff that we believe in today and we still talk about, okay? The cultural impact of films is orders of magnitude more important than the cultural and positive impacts of social media, because social media right now is pretty much only having a negative impact on society. Whereas, we still remember our favorite films from when we were a kid, and people still quote characters from fictional realms. People have learned important and valuable lessons from movies. And I think watching a good film, is more akin to reading a book. It's not quite as in-depth as reading a book, obviously, and it doesn't get you into that story as much, and maybe doesn't teach you as much as a book could teach you. But, it's kind of that gray area, right? You have books, which in my opinion are a great source of dopamine. You can get invested into a story, it can help your articulation, it can help your speech, you can learn stuff, and it can really kick off your imagination and be really great source of creativity for you. So there's that side of books. And then there's the complete opposite end of books, which is like a vacuous, vapid landscape of rapid content that has zero meaning behind it. So it's the opposite of a book, where a book is kind of one piece of content that's in depth and valuable and dense. You have the opposite end, where it's lots of little bits of content that have zero value and not dense, and it's the complete opposite, right? One of them is like slow, hard-earned dopamine. The other one is instant gratification, cheap, easily accessible dopamine. And I think movies kind of fall somewhere in the middle. The same with theatres and plays, they kind of fall in the middle. Yes, these are all distractions. I mean, at the end of the day, a book is a distraction from work, okay? If you want to just work 24/7, then a book is technically a distraction. But I think there's an important distinction to be made there between things like porn, gaming, and social media versus like books, movies, art, and films. And another important distinction to be made is actually, I think that life does need distractions. I'm not saying that we should, having distractions in life at all is bad. I think it is bad that we have so many distractions in the world now, honestly, because it really is biasing people towards an easier, more sedentary life. But what I would say on the flip side as well of that is that actually working 24/7 and grinding and hustling and, that life isn't healthy either. It's all about moderation. You need to, have days where you just relax and read a book or watch a film, but then you also need to have days where you work hard. So my advice to anyone who is resonating with this is delete social media, and what you need to strive towards is to have a healthier digital relationship. Transform your digital relationship. And what I mean by that is having a digital relationship where you occasionally watch a film, maybe play a video game or something, that's fine. But the other side of it, where you're constantly engaged with this vacuous world of social media and constantly consuming content, that's a totally different type of distraction. So you just need to strive towards having a healthier, more balanced digital diet. But the good news is, obviously, people are starting to recognize this and wake up to this reality that actually there is incredibly wealthy and powerful people in charge of the world right now that do have incentives to keep the general population distracted. And that's the private side, who make a lot of money from it. And then there's also the more conspiracy side, where the governments might want people to stay distracted and to stay complacent in society, so that society can keep moving forwards and people can keep working, but they need that kind of escape route, right? Somewhere to go, somewhere to get a little bit of joy. And I think the government, there is a clear incentive there to keep people, with social media and keep the latest Netflix shows coming out, just to kind of keep society ticking along and keep everyone just moderately happy. And I think that's quite a nefarious thing, to be honest with you. I think the government should take responsibility to raise people up and to educate people and, bring people to a higher place in life, rather than keeping them at a low point of, just being in this dopamine loop that never ends. Anyway, that's about it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you found that valuable or helpful in any way, and I'll see you in the next one.